You're listening to the WrestleHavoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc podcast.
It is the eve of Money in the Bank. What is up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on episode 20 of the WrestleHavoc podcast, of course, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We got a lot of things to talk about on this week's edition of the show. Of course, we are going to be talking about who should win the Money in the Bank ladder match. Apparently, there are pitches for Logan Paul to win Money in the Bank, considering the fact that, of course, Logan Paul is a mainstream, personality, and, of course, he offers a lot of mainstream attention towards WWE, and that is the reason why there has been some pitches for Logan Paul. We're going to be talking about that and why I think Logan Paul should not win Money in the Bank. We're going to be talking about Bryan Danielson. Of course, Bryan Danielson, is injured, as well as CM Punk. CM Punk was at the Collision tapings last night. Of course, Collision this week is not going to be live. It was actually taped last night, and he was at the Collision tapings. We're going to talk about what he's doing, as well as a couple of events been announced. Of course, AEW All Out has been announced as well. Grand Slam has been announced. Randy Orton is set to return to WWE as soon as Money in the Bank. Brock Lesnar, of course, is set to appear in London as well. And, of course, I am going to be giving you guys my preview and predictions for tomorrow's Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming to us from London, England at the O2 Arena. So this is definitely going to be a packed show for all you listeners out there of the WrestleHavoc podcast. So I'm definitely going to be talking about a lot of things right here on the show. But before I get on with all this craziness, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, if you guys had missed it, the AEW Dynamite review is up on the channel. I talk about whether or not this show is actually special, besides the crazy stink spot that took place on the show. Not really the best episode of AEW Dynamite, in my opinion. Probably one of the weaker Dynamites I've seen in a while. And really, all people are going to be talking about this show is, of course, the crazy sting spot where he jumped off the ladder and went through two tables and literally hurt his chin. Also, of course, we had Blood and Guts announced. Blood and Guts is going to be taking place July 19th, and it's official. It's going to be the Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club. So if you guys haven't checked out the AEW Dynamite review, the link will be in the description of this video. As well as the Raw review. The Raw review is up on the channel as well. We talk about the go-home show for Raw for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Really not the best episode of Raw. It was a great in-ring show, but really nothing really special happened on this show, in my opinion. Of course, we had Carmelo Hayes versus Finn Balor. Cody Rhodes, of course, is, they're building up to the match that they're going to have with Cody Rhodes and Dominic Mysterio. We're going to be talking about that. But if you guys haven't if you guys haven't watched the Raw review, give it a watch, and the link will be in the description below of this video as well. All right, let's talk about what is going on in the realm of professional wrestling. We're going to be talking about Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson, of course, as you all know, had a match against Kazuchika Okada this past Sunday at AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door pay-per-view in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Bryan Danielson suffered a fractured forearm, and it looks like he's going to be out for roughly around 6 to 8 weeks, which absolutely sucks because, Bryan Danielson is a big part in this whole Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club storyline, as well as, we have Blood and Guts announced, and it looks like he's not going to be a part of that match, so we need to find a replacement for Bryan Danielson. And also Brie Bella, which is the wife of Bryan Danielson, went on, I believe it was an Instagram story, and showed an x-ray of the fractured forearm that Bryan Danielson suffered this past Sunday at Forbidden Door, and stated that it was actually worse than what they had thought. So it looks like Bryan Danielson is going to be out for a while, and he's going to be out for roughly around 6 to 8 weeks. And if you think about it, in 8 weeks' time, it's actually going to be All In. All In is going to be happening at Wembley Stadium. So It looks like Bryan Danielson is most likely going to be missing Wembley, which absolutely sucks as well because I really want Bryan Danielson to be a part of that show. Who knows? He may be a part of that show. We just do not know. But from what it looks like, the injury, the just severeness of the injury, it's brutal, man. And if you looked at the X-ray that Brie Bella put on her Instagram story and talked about how, of course, it was worse than they had expected, it's a serious injury. Now we got more on Bryan Danielson's injury and his work in creative for AEW. Of course, according to Fightful Select, Bryan Danielson has been already working on AEW Creative, but we learned a bit more. We can confirm Wrestling Observer's report that Danielson has been lauded for what he provides creatively, and it was reiterated that the Championship Friday episode of AEW Rampage was actually a Tony Khan idea, as opposed to Danielson's as some originally attributed. Instead, Danielson has been working on the first several weeks of AEW Collision and its creative as of late, and we're told that Danielson has been very valuable in speaking with talent about how they want their creative handled and the ways to communicate things between creative and talent. Unfortunately, Danielson's injury occurred and caused several adjustments creatively for AEW. There were plans for Danielson to wrestle more on television following Forbidden Door, and he was to be involved in Blood and Guts targeted for July in Boston. So, yes, of course, he was supposed to be slated for Blood and Guts because, of course, he is a part of the Blackpool Combat Club, but that is not going to be the case. But Bryan Danielson, of course, these reports are stating that he's, been a great hand for AEW Creative, and that is great to see. The more Tony Khan, literally just adds around his, little world of professional wrestling, the better. I mean, Tony Khan can't really do everything on his own, and that's actually one of the biggest reasons as to why a lot of people are tend to, criticizing AEW a lot is because Tony Khan is actually involving himself with all of these, storylines and all these developments as what we're watching in the product. So the fact that he has guys like CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Chris Hero now apparently is involved with the Collision. It's great to see. The more help you have, the better the show you have. That's how I perceived it. And of course, Bryan Danielson is going to be out from 6 to 8 weeks, and that sucks. But hopefully, we wish Bryan Danielson right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast a speedy recovery. Of course, that is a major, severe injury. Now we have news on AEW Collision and CM Punk. This is according to Fightful Select. CM Punk is planned for Collision now. From the time I'm actually recording this, Collision has been already taped. It was actually taped in, I believe it was in Hamilton last night. So it was actually in the same arena as Dynamite. CM Punk, though, is planned for Collision. There was some confusion among fans regarding tonight's episode of Collision that is being taped in Hamilton, Ontario. CM Punk wasn't announced publicly for the show, but we're told that he was set to be there and perform in some capacity. This has always been the plan, as best we've heard. As Fightful Select reported this spring, there were times when AEW runs Dynamite and Collision on back-to-back nights as they'll get good deals on the building running it consecutively. So it looks like CM Punk is going to be a part of the show now. Don't ask me for spoilers on Collision because I did not look at the Collision spoilers, but from what I've at least heard all over social media, the show's actually been, really well, and it was, people reacted very well when it came to the show. Collision's not going to be taped every week. This is one of the rare times that Collision is actually going to be taped every week, and if you really think about it, it sucks that the show's going to be taped, but it was a genuinely great reaction. Hopefully it doesn't affect the quality of the show because I genuinely believe Collision has been a fantastic show for AEW. Times that I actually believe that the show is so much better than Dynamite. It flows better than Dynamite. It's different than Dynamite. If you compare Dynamite and Collision, both of those shows are completely different from one another. Speaking of AEW Collision, the ratings are out for the second ever edition of AEW Collision, and they are not good. Of course, the Collision show, there for the second week, the ratings dropped significantly. Saturday night's episode of AEW Collision averaged 595,000 viewers on TNT, down 27.1% from the premiere show the previous week. The second episode of AEW Dynamite in October of 2019 dropped a similar percentage at 27.8%, and in the second week. Collision drew a .21 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, down 36.4% from the debut. That also compares similarly to the 32.4% that Dynamite fell on its second week on TNT. The AEW Rampage comparisons are not really fair since the second episode featured the debut of CM Punk and saw that the show did do a record number, and it has never come close to ever since. Of course, Rampage has been doing disastrous numbers. I mean, nobody watches Rampage at this point. But what are my thoughts on this rating that came out for Collision? Is it disappointing? Absolutely, it is. I thought we were going to be seeing maybe either a steady increase. I didn't expect a big increase from the show. I expected either a steady increase or a small decline, but literally that number, man, 595,000 viewers is not good. Now, what's crazy about this is everybody was talking about the Collision ratings all this week ever since they came out, and they were saying immediately that this show was a failure. Okay, if you guys watch my channel, I don't view, if you think about it, I don't think a show is good or bad regarding numbers. What I watch on TV is what I think. I don't really care about the numbers of the show. Do I expect Collision to, improve their ratings? Absolutely. I do see it increasing. Ratings are going to go up and down in general. That's just the nature of the business. For WWE and AEW, the ratings are going to go up and down. But I judge a show whether it's good or not on the creative end. I don't really give a shit about the ratings as much as I used to because, let's be honest with ourselves, the discourse on ratings on social media is absolutely cancerous. It really is. Like, people talk about ratings like it's fucking 1997. Like, bro, it's not the Monday Night Wars anymore. It's 2023. Okay, it's 2023. I say the same thing about WWE. WWE is doing record ratings right now, and rightfully so, because the Bloodline shit, the Bloodline shit is so hot right now. But again, ratings are going to go up, ratings are going to go down. The fact that we have, and again, I hate using the word tribalism because everybody uses the word tribalism, and I don't want to use the word tribalism, but the fact that we have this whole discourse going on about ratings in WWE and AEW, like, bro, shut the fuck up. You're the reason why a lot of people view wrestling fans as probably one of the most toxic fans in all of pop culture. Okay? Like, we really need to just shut the fuck up about the ratings. I do see AEW Collision increasing. Was I disappointed in the ratings that came out? Absolutely. But I genuinely believed that the second edition of Collision was actually better than the first. A lot of people thought the first episode was actually better than the second. I actually thought the second was better than the first because, the commentators felt more comfortable in what they were doing, and the show just flowed very, very, very well. If you compare it to AEW Dynamite this week, clearly Collision is the better show. So that is all I got to say about that. But again, the discourse on ratings, like, bro, fans, please shut the fuck up. You do not know the business at all. Even me, like, I don't know anything about the television industry. But again, like, bro, the discourse on ratings is hilarious. It's by people that just want the wrestling business to fail. I could easily say they want AEW to fail, but I genuinely believe they want the entire professional wrestling business to fail. Same thing goes for AEW fans. Like, they talk about the WWE ratings all the time. Like, bro, who gives a shit? WWE sucks at sometimes. AEW would suck at sometimes, but bro, the wrestling business is thriving at this point financially. So the fact that we're just talking about fucking ratings thinking it's still 1998 is the funniest shit alive. Bro, move on. It's 2023. Please, shut the fuck up. But those ratings were not as good as I thought they were going to be. So, yeah, that's my little note on the AEW Collision ratings. All right, in our next story, we are going to be talking about a series of events that are going to be taking place for AEW. AEW has officially announced Grand Slam and All Out. We're first going to be talking about All Out because they have a whole week in Chicago for All Out. All Out has been announced, and they're going to be taking over Chicago in late August, early September. Of course, on Wednesday, August 30th, Dynamite and Rampage is going to be taking place at the Now Arena, of course, the former Sears Center. It's going to be taking place at the Now Arena on Wednesday, August 30th. Collision is going to be taking place at the United Center on September 2nd, as well as All Out is going to be taking place Sunday, September 3rd from the United Center. Overall, everybody talks about, look, I think it's a little bit too much. And yeah, it's commonplace with AEW. Every time when they go to a new market, of course, they're going to immediately sell that shit out. But then once they just do that same market, and it clearly shows with this, Canadian tour, they were struggling before Collision premiered. The Collision tickets were absolutely disastrous. Thankfully, they went up a little bit, but those Collision ticket sales before the show premiered were absolutely disastrous. What are my thoughts on AEW having, All Out in Chicago again? It's a tradition. I'm not really upset about it. All Out, for probably the duration of its time, it's going to be in Chicago. But I will say this. It's a great decision that All Out is finally at the United Center. I remember being disappointed last year that All Out was at the Now Arena instead of the United Center, because if you think about it, Forbidden Door was at the United Center, and then if you compare it to All Out, and I'm like, why the fuck could you go to why would you go to the Now Arena if you could sell more tickets to the All Out pay-per-view in the United Center? So it's great that All Out is going to be taking place at the United Center. So that is great to see. Dynamite and Rampage, of course, are going to be in the Now Arena, and Collision is going to be taking place at the United Center Saturday, September 2nd. Now, speaking of All Out Weekend, actually, Starrcast has been announced. Starrcast VI has been announced. If you guys do not know what Starrcast is a wrestling convention by Conrad Thompson, in which you got a lot of wrestling legends, a lot of podcasters kind of like joined together, and there's a lot of panels on, guys interviewing a lot of wrestling legends, like maybe like Eric Bischoff or other guys. Starrcast 6 is official. According to Fightful Select, Starrcast is coming back. Fightful Select confirmed with Conrad Thompson that Starrcast is back with Starrcast 6. The event is set to take place from September 1st to September 3rd in Chicago. The show is running in conjunction with AEW All Out. We've learned that the event has been in the works for months and was awaiting an official announcement. They were waiting on the official All Out announcement, in which now it's officially announced. It was actually announced during Forbidden Door. Hotel blocks will be announced Thursday, and we'll have more details as they become available. So if you guys that are in the Chicago area or are going to be attending All Out or any of the AEW events during this time, definitely go check out Starrcast. I've never been to Starrcast in my life. I've always wanted to go. Hopefully they do Starrcast maybe next year during WrestleMania. WrestleMania is going to be in Philadelphia. I'm from the New Jersey area, and I'm planning on going to WrestleMania because the Lincoln Financial Field is actually roughly an hour away from where I'm at. So I'm definitely, excited for that, and hopefully I get those WrestleMania tickets. But for all you guys in the Chicago area that are excited for AEW, All Out, Collision, Dynamite, and Rampage, go check out Starrcast. I believe the last Starrcast was last year during Summerslam weekend in Nashville, so that was the last Starrcast. So definitely give it a check out. I mean, there are a lot of very interesting interviews, a lot of interesting panels. Learned a lot of stuff, man. It's great stuff. Also, Conrad Thompson, I believe he was the one that produced Ric Flair's last match last year as well. But yeah, Starrcast 6 has been officially announced. Also, when it comes to events for AEW Dynamite and Rampage Grand Slam, the third edition of Grand Slam, is going to be taking place Wednesday, September 20th this year, of course, in Queens, New York. I think it was pretty obvious that Grand Slam is going to be happening once again. Of course, it is a tradition for AEW. Hopefully, they can sell more tickets than they did last year. Not to say last year's was a failure, because it was not. I mean, if you think about it, last year's Grand Slam was actually a $1 million gate, and I believe it drew more money. Even though if they sold less tickets, I believe it actually drew more money the second go-around than the first go-around. But the first, they sold more tickets for the first Grand Slam than the second Grand Slam. But Dynamite Grand Slam is going to be taking place Wednesday, September 20th. So hopefully if you guys are in the New York area, you guys can go check out Grand Slam. Of course, Grand Slam, man, ever since they started doing Grand Slam 2 years ago, it's a fun experience. I've never been to Arthur Ashe Stadium, but I know a lot of fans there. They definitely had a blast with those Grand Slam shows, and it's arguably AEW's biggest Dynamite of the year, if you really think about it. Of course, we had Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega 2 years ago. We had Jon Moxley versus Bryan Danielson last year as well. Who knows what we are going to be getting, this year for Grand Slam, but it's going to be very exciting, in my opinion, at least. And also, if you think about it, AEW has a shit ton of shows happening throughout the next couple of months. Right now we're headed into July. Of course, we got All In at Wembley Stadium. A week later, we got All Out. And after that, we got Grand Slam. But the thing about All Out, and this is something that I wanted to point out to, is what's interesting about All Out is that it's going to be taking place Sunday, September 3rd. That is going to be a week after All In at Wembley Stadium. Now, my biggest question when it comes to All Out is, where is the show going to be airing? So I assume All Out is going to be a pay-per-view. But where is All In going to air? That is the question. We do not know if it's a pay-per-view or not. A lot of people are speculating that it could possibly be a special show that is streamed on Max, which I personally definitely think that is the case. Max makes total sense for a show like AEW All In. But for All Out, you're going to have to pay the $50. In my opinion, I think that is a great deal. I think it'd be very foolish on AEW's part to have their fan base pay $50 for one show and then the next week shill another $50 for another show. You're paying $100 for two pay-per-views that are going to be good, but $100 really? If you really think about it, UFC pay-per-views are roughly around $70 to $80, which is fucking ridiculous. Now, from a fan's point of view, that sounds ridiculous, but maybe from a business perspective, it kind of makes sense for UFC standards because UFC has a quality product. That's what I genuinely see, at least. But for All Out, it's definitely going to be taking place a week after All In, and we still do not know where All In is going to be airing. I assume it's not going to be on pay-per-view. I assume it's definitely going to be taking place on Max. They just need to really figure things out, and hopefully we get an announcement on where All In will be airing in the next couple of weeks. All right, in our next story, we're going to be talking about Randy Orton. Yes, Randy Orton is in the news. A lot of news heading in towards Money in the Bank. According to WRKD Wrestling, Randy Orton is expected to be nearing to a return, possibly even as soon as this weekend's Money in the Bank. And Orton has been out of action since May of 2022 with a serious back injury. Overall, what are my thoughts on this? Randy Orton, I don't want to say he's desperately needed on WWE television, but if he is nearing a return and if he does return at Money in the Bank, I think we're off to the races. And honestly, if you think about it, of course, RK Bro was one of the best things, in my opinion, from WWE television last year. And would I love to see a reunion with RK Bro, with Matt Riddle and Randy Orton? Absolutely. But the money is a feud between Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. I do think we're going to be getting an RK Bro reunion for a short while. And then later on, we're going to be having Randy Orton to turn heel on Matt Riddle. Who knows? Maybe WWE would want a crazy fucking reaction in London for Randy Orton to come out only to turn heel on that same night against Matt Riddle. Who knows? But it looks like Randy Orton is definitely on his way back. He may be returning at Money in the Bank. Do I see him returning at Money in the Bank? Personally, no. But if he does, step in the right direction because now, since Riddle is on the Raw roster, it gives some sort of direction for Riddle because right now, Riddle is in I don't want to say program, but he's going into a match against Gunther, and we all know he's going to be losing that match against Gunther. So really after that, without Randy Orton, what do you do with Matt Riddle? Now, with the inclusion of Randy Orton, now you have some sort of direction with Matt Riddle, and then you can have a one-on-one program with Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. So hopefully Randy Orton makes his return, hopefully at Money in the Bank, but we are not sure, but it's definitely in the rumor mill. Another man that is expected to appear at Money in the Bank is Brock Lesnar. According to WRKD Wrestling, the Twitter account, Brock Lesnar is expected to appear at Money in the Bank to set up a third gimmick match with Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. I think this was pretty much expected. Am I invested in this Brock Lesnar Cody Rhodes story? Absolutely not. I think it would have been much more better if the feud was involving the championship, but I think it's obvious that Brock Lesnar is going to be making his return at Money in the Bank, either causing Cody Rhodes the match, or Cody Rhodes goes over against Dominic Mysterio, and then he eventually, returns after that, and then, he just beats the shit out of Cody, setting up this gimmick match at SummerSlam. So what gimmick match do we see happening at SummerSlam? A bull rope match, a dog collar match? We do not know, but it's going to be very interesting to see what that stipulation match is going to be at Summerslam. And, of course, they're going to be setting up a third match. It sucks that Cody Rhodes is not going to be wrestling Roman Reigns. But if you think about it right now with what they're doing with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline Civil War, creatively, it wouldn't make any sense. Even though I would want it to happen, it looks like WWE is going to be dragging Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns to next year's WrestleMania, and hopefully the crowd will still be invested in Cody. But I don't know. That's just me. I just do not see that happening. But I beg to differ, maybe, because if you think about it right now, the crowds for Cody are still relatively positive. Cody Rhodes is still over with the audience, which is great to see. But Brock Lesnar looks like he is going to be coming back at Money in the Bank. All right. Now we're going to be talking about our big story, and this big story is actually very interesting. Of course, this is regarding the Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, according to WRKD Wrestling, while LA Knight and Damian Priest are the current favorites to win the upcoming Money in the Bank ladder match, there have been internal pitches to give the win to Logan Paul. Some feel that Paul holding the briefcase would bring publicity and put more eyes on the company. Okay, what are my thoughts on this scenario? There can be pro and cons for Logan Paul to win the Money in the Bank. Look, yes, it can bring publicity towards WWE, and I'm not shying away from the fact. If you look at it from a business perspective, it does make sense. But here is the problem that I have. If he wins the Money in the Bank, right? If Logan Paul won the Money in the Bank, you already know who he is going to be cashing his World Heavyweight title to, or his Money in the Bank contract to. It's going to be Seth Rollins, who is the current World Heavyweight Champion. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, but what if he cashes in kind of like, RVD at ECW One Night Stand and just like, cashes in and just has a match at SummerSlam against Seth Rollins? That is not going to be the case. Logan Paul, if he ever won the Money in the Bank, and if he's a heel, he'd fucking cash it in the way every other guy cashed in the Money in the Bank, or most guys cashed in the Money in the Bank, at least. But this is the thing. The thing about Logan Paul cashing in on Seth Rollins and possibly winning the World Heavyweight Championship, in my opinion, is a stupid idea. Because it goes against everything that WWE has told you on what the World Heavyweight Championship stands for. That is exactly the biggest takeaway I have if Logan Paul wins the Money in the Bank. Because if he wins the Money in the Bank and he successfully cashes in on Seth Rollins and wins the World Heavyweight Championship, the number one question that I'm going to ask you, the viewer, is Logan Paul a full-time guy? No, he's not. He is a part-time guy. I know a lot of people do not like part-time guys. I do not like part-time guys either. But the fact that Logan Paul is holding the Money in the Bank and possibly would win the World Heavyweight Championship against Seth Rollins would be astronomically stupid. Because, again, it would go everything that WWE has told you what the World Heavyweight title stood for. The World Heavyweight title is supposed to be the workhorse championship. What was the main reason as to why WWE basically brought back or unveiled the World Heavyweight Championship? What was the reason why? Because Roman Reigns has both of the titles, and they need a fucking champion on Raw. Why the fuck are you going to give it to a full-time, a part-time guy like Logan Paul? Give it to a full-time guy like LA Knight. LA Knight should win the Money in the Bank, period. There's no buts or ifs. This report by WRKD Wrestling also stated Damian Priest as a favorite. Damian Priest winning the Money in the Bank, I wouldn't be against either, because there is a built-in story with Damian Priest and Judgment Day. There's some tension going on between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Why the fuck do you want to give it to a guy like Logan Paul just because of publicity, mainstream publicity, even though WWE are masters at mainstream publicity? Literally, any event that Logan Paul wrestles in will immediately garner that mainstream publicity. He doesn't need the championship. At this point, I don't want to call him an attraction, but I will go ahead and say maybe he's an attraction. But he doesn't need the championship. Okay? He doesn't need the championship whatsoever. Adding Logan Paul in this match, look, he's going to do great things in the match. I'm not denying anything about Logan Paul in his in-ring work. The work that he has done for WWE has been fantastic. Could his promos be better? Yeah, but the in-ring stuff, phenomenal. Phenomenal. But Logan Paul should not be winning the Money in the Bank. The Money in the Bank should go to a guy like LA Knight, who is getting a genuine reaction every goddamn week, or a guy like Damian Priest, who right now is in a storyline with Finn Balor. So we really need to chill the fuck out. Yes, it can garner mainstream publicity and attention to the company. But with Logan Paul just being there, he garners the same amount of attention and mainstream publicity. So we really need to slow the fuck down when it comes to talking about Logan Paul possibly winning the Money in the Bank. Because if he ever wins the World Heavyweight title, if he won Money in the Bank, again, it goes against WWE's, again, idea of what the World Heavyweight Championship stood for. Because now you're going to have two part-time champions. You're going to have Roman Reigns, who misses the majority of his dates because that's in his contract, as well as Logan Paul not being on the show every week. I shouldn't say misses for Roman Reigns because, of course, it's in his contract, but Roman Reigns has a limited schedule. Logan Paul as well has a limited schedule, so why the fuck would you jeopardize the idea that you built in the viewers' heads on what the World Heavyweight title stood for? You're not going to have two part-time world champions, are you? Okay. But Logan Paul should not win the Money in the Bank. He should not win the Money in the Bank. LA Knight or Damian Priest should win the Money in the Bank ladder match. All right. Now, we're going to be going through the card for Money in the Bank. Of course, Money in the Bank will be taking place tomorrow at the O2 Arena in London, England. And let me tell you guys, you know, I could easily come on here and say, oh, I'm not excited for Money in the Bank. Nah, man, I'm excited for Money in the Bank. The reason why is because of the crowd in London. You guys in the UK, of course, are striving for fucking wrestling. And it's going to be the same thing when AEW goes to Wembley. Bro, the UK fans, whether you like them or hate them, and trust me, there's a lot of UK fans that I feel like think way too fucking much and go a little bit too fucking in depth with a lot of the shit that I hear on fucking Twitter. But you can't deny the UK fans are the most passionate fucking fans in the entire wrestling business. They really are. They are so fucking passionate. Anytime WWE goes to the UK, the crowd is just up on their feet. When they went to Cardiff last year for Clash at the Castle, that crowd was on their fucking feet the entire time. I could just immediately think of the match between Sheamus versus Gunther. One of the best things that WWE has done when it comes to their pay-per-view format, especially now, is going to all of these different international markets. Because it really gives you a sense of difference when it comes to any other WWE show you watch. And that has a lot to do with the atmosphere in the crowd. Even Saudi Arabia. I'm against the idea of WWE going to Saudi Arabia. But I have to say, the crowd in Saudi Arabia for Night of Champions was 10 times better than I have ever seen any crowd for Saudi Arabia ever since WWE started going there. So it goes to show you that people are definitely invested in what the fuck they are watching. Not only that, Money in the Bank is just going to be a phenomenal show. Of course, we got the main event. We got Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa taking on the Usos in the Bloodline Civil War. All right, let's go through the match card. We're going to start all the way at the bottom. We got the Intercontinental Championship match with Gunther defending his title against Matt Riddle. Overall, who do I think is going to be winning this match? It's obvious that Gunther is going to be winning. But the biggest takeaway that I can give you is that this is probably going to be the match of the night. Now, I know that's hard to say considering the main event is a tag team match regarding the Bloodline. But still, if you want to talk about just a knockdown, just guys beating the shit out of each other type of match, Gunther versus Matt Riddle is basically the match for you. I will put this on par with Sheamus versus Gunther at Clash at the Castle last year. Those guys murdered each other last year, and it was probably one of the best matches of 2022. Do I see this match being probably one of the best matches of 2023? I do not know. Could it be in the top 10? Maybe, but still. A lot of people are sleeping on this match, I feel like, but these guys are going to be tearing the house down at Money in the Bank, especially with the hot crowd in London. You know for a fact, man, these guys are going to go crazy for a guy like Gunther. So who is my pick to win this match? To win this match, Gunther will be retaining the Intercontinental Championship. We got Cody Rhodes taking on Dominic Mysterio of the Judgment Day. Honestly, this match could go either way. I do see Cody Rhodes getting the win. I know a couple of people see Dominic Mysterio getting the win. And honestly, if Dominic Mysterio gets the win, I wouldn't be upset whatsoever because Dominic say what you want, and yes, I hate the comparisons that people give with Dominic Mysterio and MJF because they're not even on the same level as one another. But you can't deny the work that Dominic Mysterio has been doing in Judgment Day has been probably the best thing for Dominic's career. Dominic being involved with the Judgment Day, I can remember at first being a little bit skeptical on the decision to move Dominic from his own father all the way to Judgment Day. But now, with the amount of heat that he is garnering, Dominic Mysterio is doing the best work of his whole career. But do I see Dominic Mysterio getting the win? I can definitely see him getting the win. I see two scenarios happening. Either Cody Rhodes gets the win and Brock Lesnar, attacks him after the match, or Brock Lesnar during the match causes Cody Rhodes the match and Dominic Mysterio gets the win. Either or, it's going to be, at the end of the day, one of these men are going to be winning. It can go either way, but my pick to win this match, personally, I do see Brock Lesnar causing Cody Rhodes the match and Dominic Mysterio getting the win. In our next match, we got the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match, a match that, in my opinion, I do not give a single shit about. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, who are the champions, will be defending their titles against Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. Of course, Liv Morgan made a return, I believe, last week on SmackDown. And is anybody interested? Nope, nobody is. Who do I see winning this match? Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. Let's move on. World Heavyweight title match. We got Seth freaking Rollins taking on Finn Balor. Judgment Day is all over this show. Of course, we got Dominic taking on Cody. Finn Balor taking on, of course, Seth Rollins for the world title, as well as Damian Priest being involved in the Money in the Bank. This is another one of those matches that it could honestly go either way. Look, there's pros and cons with, Finn Balor winning the match. If Finn Balor wins the match, of course, he's going to be the World Heavyweight Champion. And, of course, with the way that WWE is building Judgment Day right now, honestly, they're probably going to be the second faction in all the entire company next to the Bloodline. But if you think about it, Finn Balor winning the World Heavyweight Championship is not necessarily a bad idea to begin with because, of course, as I stated earlier, there's a story being told regarding the tension between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Damian Priest wants to do things on his own. Meanwhile, Finn Balor, of course, wants to be the World Heavyweight Champion. They had a backstage segment on Raw a couple of weeks ago in which, Finn Balor says, I hope you win Money in the Bank, and I hope I become the World Heavyweight Champion. But if I win, the World Heavyweight Championship and you win Money in the Bank, you're not going to cash on me, right? Right then and there, they kind of set the stage of what it looks like they're going to be doing heading in, towards the next couple of months on WWE television regarding Judgment Day. And it looks like Damian Priest is on the verge to becoming a babyface, and he's going to get split away from the Judgment Day. And, of course, Damian Priest's replacement is going to be J.D. McDonough. That's what I see happening. But the biggest con that I see with Finn Balor winning this match is the fact that it basically would show that Seth Rollins' title reign was kind of cut short. Because if you think about it, Seth Rollins won his World Heavyweight title a little over a month ago. So if you think about it, Seth Rollins' title reign would be drastically cut short, which absolutely sucks because I really wanted a lengthy title reign with Seth Rollins. But I'm not against the idea of Finn Balor winning the World Heavyweight Championship. But who do I see honestly winning this match? Seth Rollins will be retaining the World Heavyweight Championship. We got the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. We got Zelina, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Io Sky, Trish Stratus, and Zoe Stark. Out of all of the women in this match, there's only one woman who should win the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And it's going to be Io Sky. It has to be Io Sky. It should not be Trish Stratus, and it should not be Becky Lynch, and it should not be Bayley. Zelina's not even going to win this match. Zoe Stark is nowhere near going to be winning this match. No chance in hell those two women are going to be winning this match. But there's only one person that should win, and it should be Io Sky. I've been talking about this for months. Damage Control is a failed experiment. Nobody gives a single shit about what WWE is doing with Damage Control. I don't give a crap what anybody says. You fucking Damage Control stands on the internet if you guys exist. But nobody gives a shit about Damage Control. Damage Control is a failed experiment. And I do see Io Sky going on her own. And she should be the only woman that should win the Money in the Bank ladder match. We got the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, Santos Escobar of the LWO, Butch from the Brawling Brutes, LA Knight, Damian Priest of the Judgment Day, and Logan Paul. Two guys only come into mind, and I talked about this earlier. LA Knight and Damian Priest are the only two logical winners of the Money in the Bank. But if you really think about it, there's only one logical member that makes total sense. And it's really LA Knight. Now, I know what people are thinking. LA Knight, what would be the plan for LA Knight if he wins Money in the Bank? Because let's be honest, he's not going to cash in immediately. If you think about it, the Money in the Bank, the winner of the Money in the Bank can hold on to that briefcase for a whole fucking year. You have a whole year to decide what you want to do with LA Knight. LA Knight should win the Money in the Bank because if you think about it, LA Knight is a star in the making, and he deserves the push that he really deserves. He really does. He has organic reactions with the audience. Not only that, he is everything that WWE would envision a wrestler. If you think about it, he is. He has the charisma, he has the look, he has everything. I talked about this last week on the WrestleHavoc podcast. He is everything a WWE superstar, the way WWE views them to be. It's exactly who LA Knight is. He controls the audience. He has the audience in the palm of his hands. He is that damn good. Damian Priest makes sense as well. And if Damian Priest won the Money in the Bank, I wouldn't be upset if that happened either. Because again, there's an ongoing story with Damian Priest and Finn Balor that WWE has yet to be told. They're starting to really tell that story. Of course, in the build-up towards this match, or this show, I should say. But it really hasn't come into fruition yet, but we're definitely on our way there. So it's either Damian Priest or LA Knight to win. Logan Paul should not win whatsoever because all you are is you're just going to garner short-term attention that nobody's going to care about after. Okay? Logan Paul already garners mainstream attention whenever he enters a WWE ring. You do not need to give him the Money in the Bank, nor you should give him the World Heavyweight title to garner more publicity. Because he already garners that publicity with just being there. Just the idea of him being there, you already have a lot of publicity at your hands. You don't need a lot more. Okay? I get wrestling's a business, but creatively, in my opinion, Logan Paul winning the Money in the Bank just does not make sense. Give it to the guys that actually, are here full time, like Damian Priest and LA Knight. But who do I see winning this men's Money in the Bank? LA Knight will win the Money in the Bank. We got the main event. The Bloodline Civil War. The Bloodline has officially imploded as Roman Reigns teaming up with the Usos' younger brother, Solo Sikoa, the enforcer, Solo Sikoa of the Bloodline, taking on the Usos in the match that, honestly, is going to have everybody talking. The Bloodline storyline, I feel like I say it almost every fucking week, but the Bloodline storyline has been the best thing in WWE television for the past, this whole year alone, and of course, late last year. The Bloodline stuff has been tremendous. Everything about it. And I've come on here and said specifically that this particular storyline is the best story that WWE has told in the modern era. And I still stand by that statement. The Bloodline stuff is the best thing, not only in WWE, but it's literally the best thing going on in the industry right now. Nothing can top the Bloodline stuff right now. And now we got Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa taking on the Usos at Money in the Bank. Could we be looking at a match of the year contender? Maybe. I mean, WWE on pay-per-view has literally been fucking fantastic. But who's going to be winning this match? I believe the Usos will be getting the win. But is Roman Reigns going to get pinned? I do not see Roman Reigns getting pinned in this match. I just do not see Roman Reigns getting pinned. I either see Solo Sikoa getting the win, or maybe after the match, if, when the Bloodline, or when Roman Reigns and Solo lose, then, Roman Reigns just gets pissed off with Solo Sikoa, and then we lead towards Solo Sikoa to break away from Roman Reigns, and now Roman Reigns is all alone, which then leads to maybe a one-on-one match between Jey Uso and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. That's what I possibly see happening. Could there be a chance of Roman Reigns getting the win? Maybe. yeah, Roman Reigns and Solo could easily get the win over the Usos. But don't count out the Usos. I do think the Usos will be going over in this match. The match will be tremendous. The London crowd will eat this shit up. Absolutely. They will 100% eat this shit up, and it's going to be a phenomenal match. Guaranteeing to you. All right. That was my Money in the Bank 2023 preview and predictions. In our final segment, I'm going to be giving you guys, of course, the weekly retro wrestling match of the week. Retro match of the week. This week, it's going to be Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg at WrestleMania 33. Now, when it comes to retro, it ain't that retro. This match is only like 6 years old, which is crazy to think. Damn near almost 10 years old, this match. This match, of course, Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, they've had 3 matches in the entirety of both men's careers. Their first match, of course, was at WrestleMania 20, and that was probably their worst match that they've ever had. Now, the second match didn't even last long whatsoever, but I'll tell you why that was not their worst match. The WrestleMania 20 match was probably the worst match, not only in the careers of Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, but it was probably the worst match. It was definitely the worst match of WrestleMania 20. And the reason why is because, of course, Goldberg and Brock Lesnar were on their way out at the time from WWE. Brock Lesnar wanted to pursue other things. Of course, he wanted to pursue football. Goldberg just wanted to leave because I believe he did not like WWE at the time. So both of them left. And, of course, with the crowd in New York City, the crowd in New York City is not stupid at all. They absolutely knew everything that was going on in the news, and they knew Brock Lesnar and Goldberg were on their way out. They knew they were both on their way out, and not even Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was the special guest referee in this match, could help this match. It really did not help this match. Fast forward from 2004 all the way to 2016. Goldberg makes his official return, of course. WWE at the time was releasing WWE 2K17, and I believe Goldberg was a playable character, and I believe he was going to be a DLC. I don't play video games, so correct me if I'm wrong, but that basically led to the return of Goldberg to WWE. And, of course, they were going to be having a match at Survivor Series in 2016, and you know what happened there. Brock Lesnar got squashed in, I don't know how many seconds by Goldberg or how many minutes by Goldberg. I'm not saying that is the worst match that they've had, because at the time, and I still stand by it, at the time in 2016, Brock Lesnar was on a fucking tear. He was literally dominating everybody. And if you really think about it, the matches that Brock Lesnar had in 2016 were kind of disappointing. I mean, he was, I believe, involved in the Royal Rumble in 2016, and then he got eliminated by the Wyatt family, I believe, and that was supposed to lead towards a match between Brock Lesnar and the Wyatts, at least, with Bray Wyatt, but that didn't happen. And instead, we got Dean Ambrose, who's now Jon Moxley, taking on Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 32, and that match was pretty disappointing. We had a match later on with Brock Lesnar and, Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton at SummerSlam, which I attended. That was my very first wrestling event that I ever attended. And that match was pretty disappointing. It ended up, in a TKO. You had Brock Lesnar literally just beat the living shit out of Randy Orton to the point where Randy Orton was bleeding, and everybody thought at the time that Brock Lesnar was going off script. I can tell you right now, when we all left the Barclays Center, everybody thought, did Brock Lesnar go off script? And I believe it went to the point that Jericho, I believe, had a fight with Brock Lesnar backstage after the match, but then, of course, we all found out that this was all a work. But it didn't really go anywhere after that. And then, of course, we had the Goldberg match. Goldberg fucking squashed this man in how many minutes or how many seconds, and the shock of the crowd was absolutely insane. I was fucking shocked like crazy. I was shocked like crazy as hell. It was insane. But then, of course, we had the Royal Rumble. Goldberg came in the Royal Rumble. This Royal Rumble was stacked. You had The Undertaker, you had fucking Goldberg, Lesnar, Randy Orton. Goldberg eliminated Brock Lesnar. And then, of course, fast forward to Fastlane. You had basically Goldberg beat Kevin Owens for the Universal title. Looking back, it was a stupid idea because, of course, if you were watching WWE programming after, the draft, and if you were watching WWE programming in late 2016, early 2017, SmackDown was clearly the better show, and Raw kind of sucked. And the only thing that was really keeping Raw alive creatively was Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. And Kevin Owens at the time was the Universal Champion. And they were building towards a match between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho at WrestleMania for the Universal title. Now, we eventually did get that match, but it was for the U.S. title. And Vince deemed it as one of the worst WrestleMania matches that he ever saw, according to people like Jericho. But they ended up giving the Universal title to Goldberg when they had Jericho cost Kevin Owens the match. And what happened was we had this match at WrestleMania 33. The match that Brock Lesnar and Goldberg had at WrestleMania 33 lasted roughly around 6 minutes. It wasn't a long match at all, but this was easily their best match that they've ever had because of the shock value of everything, that was going on in that arena. Think about this. If you watch this match back, the crowd was in favor of Brock Lesnar. They were not in favor of Goldberg. They were sick and tired of Goldberg at that time. They were fucking through with this man. And this match is a definition of what you can do in 6 minutes. Back and forth, just spear, F5, spear and F5. And then, of course, WWE later overdid it with a bunch of Brock Lesnar matches. But still, this match was great. This was probably one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time. They had a phenomenal match. The crowd was just up on their feet, just absolutely crazed of what they were watching. But eventually, Brock Lesnar got the win and beat Goldberg and became the Universal Champion all the way until, I believe, SummerSlam 2018, where Roman Reigns beat him for the title. So Brock Lesnar had that title for a long-ass time, for damn near 2 years. But, of course, Roman Reigns now beat him with the longest title reign in the Universal title's history. But this is this week's retro match of the week. Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg at WrestleMania 33 6 years ago in 2017. All right, that's all I got for you guys for episode 20 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. We definitely talked a lot. It's going to be a big weekend of wrestling. Of course, I got SmackDown tonight. I will definitely be pulling out you guys a SmackDown review. Of course, we got Collision tomorrow. We got Money in the Bank tomorrow. So keep in mind, Money in the Bank. I will be covering Money in the Bank tomorrow night, and then the Collision review will be up on Sunday. So be on the lookout for that. Usually when it comes towards a WWE pay-per-view, even though they're on different times, I'm still going to be covering Money in the Bank. And, of course, we're going to have times where Collision is going to be head-to-head against the WWE pay-per-view. And, of course, I'm going to be focused in that WWE pay-per-view. So we're going to be, of course, I got the WrestleHavoc podcast up now. And then, of course, tomorrow, I'm going to be busting out the SmackDown review tonight. Tomorrow, I'm going to be busting out the Money in the Bank review. And, of course, on Sunday, I will be giving you guys the AEW Collision review. So, yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast, episode 20. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And, as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Rick, Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys for Friday Night SmackDown. Peace.